Trojan fans, welcome to another edition of the Peristyle Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Abraham, publisher of USCFootball.com. We are joined alongside by the coach, Harvey Hyde. Follow him on Twitter at Coach Harvey Hyde, all the socials, X, Instagram, YouTube, all of it, at Coach Harvey Hyde, or you can go to his website, harveyhyde.com, for all of his content, putting up stuff each and every week, all the radio shows he does and everything, and his appearances here on the Peristyle Podcast. We got to talk about USC's 59-20 win over the Fighting Clay Heltons of Georgia Southern, coming into the Coliseum on Saturday and getting dispatched by the Trojans. USC's won their first two games by combined 99 points. And so we're going to talk to the coach about all of that. Coach, welcome into the show. How you doing, sir?
Ryan, thank you very much. And again, congratulations to all you Trojans out there. When you're 2-0, you can't ask for anything better. And now they seem to be on a roll. I know we'll get into it a little bit more specifically as we move along today. And, Ryan, I just want to say something here before we get started.
Okay, Coach.
When I analyze our podcast, I do it as a football coach, as far as for the football program. It's a multi-million-dollar activity now. And it's so important on the results of the program for the fans, to the donors, to everyone out there, to television, that the best product that you can put on the field is what you're looking to do. Winning is the answer. And all I talk about is what I think that people should do to improve their chances of being successful. I don't want to point to anyone specifically. Maybe it sounds like I do. I want the kids to really have fun by winning. I think it's important when you have fun. I think it's important when all of you go to the game and tailgate and have a blast and so on. But I look at this podcast as an opportunity to meet with the coach and have the coach tell you honestly what he saw with his two eyes and what I might tell my staff on a Monday morning or Sunday morning if I'm asked a question or how I feel about the team. And for some of you out there that think sometimes I'm a little bit critical, that certainly is allowable, and it's your opinion. I appreciate your opinions. So I just want to say we appreciate you listening, and I just want to sort of set it straight, Ryan, because football is a great game, and everyone's involved in it. And I've been involved in it for years. It's been part of my life, and I'm sure it's part of everybody's life out there that is interested enough to listen to these podcasts.
Well, appreciate it, Coach. Yeah, you do your thing. You tell it like you feel, and that's why we're here to talk about football. We love doing it, and we love to hear from the fans. And we got a bunch of emails, and we got a voicemail and text messages today. If you want to email us, you can do that, podcast@uscfootball.com, or you can call or text us at 424-254-9141. I think, we have one voicemail for you today, and then I believe so, and then a couple of text messages and a bunch of emails as well. So we appreciate that. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can leave us the show a 5-star rating. We'd appreciate that very much. And on Apple, you can actually leave a review. And on Spotify, you can leave comments for individual shows. So we love when people comment on the shows, let us know what they think. And we're up on YouTube now. So I think we're starting to get Coach Hyde on the YouTube. So if you're up there, I know we got a lot of comments last week, so we appreciate that. So we can watch us talk about the game. I'll try to put some photos up from the game, relevant players that we talk about and all that. So we appreciate everyone doing that. Well, Coach, like I mentioned at the top, Clay Helton comes to the Coliseum, gave a little announcement at the start where they recognized Clay Helton walking into, down the tunnel. That's something they normally don't do for opposing head coaches. But, from I talked to people in the administration, that was what their plan was. That's just a sort of like a way to recognize, Clay Helton, who'd led the USC Trojan football team for years. Some boos came down a little bit, not unexpected. I thought there would be boos, but in general, come out and you get to see Clay Helton in the Coliseum again. And USC gets a win that's 39-point win. It wasn't the prettiest. I think there's a lot of teachable moments from the tape and everything. But I don't know where you want to start on this one. The Trojans get the big victory, the two quote-unquote preseason games. Now you're going to head into Big Ten play. But I don't know where you want to get started on this one, Coach.
Well, I don't know how much time we have, but I want to get to it. Most of the people are interested in. First of all, on Clay Helton. I've always liked Clay Helton. He spoke all the time at the Pasadena Quarterback Club. He was always pleasant, always said hello to everybody. And I used to say that if I had a son, it'd be great for him to play under him, because he really cares about kids. I think kids really like him and so on. I think he was put into a position there at first when maybe it was a little bit over his head, but he did his very best, did a great job, was liked by everyone. And when he was asked to leave, he left with class. And I just liked the guy. And he was willing to come back and play in the Coliseum. A little bit overwhelming for him with his Georgia Southern team. And he probably anticipated it wouldn't be a pleasant trip. But he brought his team out and filled a spot on the schedule, took home a nice check, and I want to wish him the best of luck the rest of the season, but he's just a good person, Ryan. He's just a good person.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Coach. And some fans don't, but I thought they treated him pretty well for that one. And, this was game 2. They took one on the chin up in Fresno against Fresno State, against the Fresno State squad that played in week 0, so they had a little bit more prep there. I think Fresno State made some, mistakes early, but then figured it out in the second half and kind of blew them away. And then I know a lot of people were kind of comparing USC's game to Fresno State, but, Georgia Southern stayed in town. To me, it felt like, just watching the offense work, it seemed like there was a lot of motivation there from the players. Like, they put a lot into this. They get the early turnover and go up 6-0. All these little things that are like kind of going your way as a Georgia Southern, teammate or fan or whatever. And it's still, you still get blown out by 39 points. But I felt like, I don't know from Coach's point of view, Coach, but it seemed like they put a lot into the game plan, trying to do like whatever advantages you could have, what edges get the, run a little quicker, getting guys open on quick passes, whatever they could do. And it's still, and USC didn't play as clean of a game as they did in week 1. And it still was nowhere near enough. And you lose by 39. I don't know if you felt the same way.
I felt the same way. It wasn't a real challenge for the Trojans, but I think that, you got to get better each week. And I think they got a little bit better than they did the first week. They polished up some things. I tell you, they've got some really great football players, the Trojans, as far as utilizing them in the right position and so on. And they'll be very difficult to stop. On the defensive side, I think they got to clean up the secondary. Maybe they're playing too many players. I don't know. But they can't have mistakes in the secondary against good football teams. Maybe get some pressure and play up tighter in the secondary will help them by getting more pressure on the quarterback, where he might be having too much time to find the open guy. And, playing a little soft maybe isn't what you want to do when you have great athletes. But, of course, Coach Lynn will figure that out as we move along. And I think this week now, again, they'll be a big favorite as far as when they go to Purdue. They're going to be a 20-point favorite over Purdue, or 20.5 right now currently, and they were 28.5 over Georgia Southern. So being a 20-point favorite on the road against Barry Odom, and it's a special type of game for Barry Odom. His offensive coordinator, Josh Henson, was at USC last year, so he knows the personnel at USC pretty well. He's his offensive coordinator. Remember, Jaden, the quarterback, played for him his freshman year. So if anybody knows Jaden, as far as what might confuse him or hurt him or what alignments or his goods and bad points, Barry Odom ought to know that. So I think it's going to be a very interesting game. I like the Trojans in this football game only because they have so many athletes that they've shown me in the first couple of games. I mean, I don't know a team in the country, and I know we shouldn't jump far ahead like this, that has a group of running backs like they do. I'm being honest with you. They're really something else. Spectacular receivers that can make big plays. The offensive line, I have not had an opportunity really to evaluate them, but I think they've had the best of who they're playing against. Defense, we'll talk about that in a moment. But, I think when you look at it, they now have got their second win, and now they get into the meat of their schedule. And now we'll be able to tell Have they gotten better? Are they for real? And see what happens.
Coach, jumping ahead to Purdue already. We haven't even got to talk about the Georgia Southern game. I love it.
You know what I used to say, Brian? I used to say, you got about 12 hours to celebrate your victory, okay? And if you celebrate it too long, you'll get beat the next week, okay?
Sure. But we still got to talk about it. Like, that's why we're
All
here.
right.
Yeah.
Anything you want.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, we'll do some offensive thoughts and some defensive thoughts. You gave a few in there. And it is really interesting that Jaden Mayava did play for Barry Odom when he was at UNLV. That, and Josh Hansen being there. I think Michael Jackson is receiver over there too, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes the transfers get a little confusing, but we'll go to this game. I mean, I don't know how much you're taking away. I think the first game, USC played almost like flawless. There was just not a lot to take away from. But Missouri State ended up beating Marshall, who won the was it Conference USA? Which one are they? I forget which. They won their conference last year. So they get their first FBS win. So that's not terrible. Like there's some life to that program. USC didn't just beat air, like they actually beat a team. But in this one, 755 yards of offense, Coach. Going back, the note we got from USC was like, as far as keeping records, that's the most that they've, since they kept records. I think it was like the early 90s or something is when they, as far as they know, some big plays. Mayava goes for over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Had one play that could have been a turnover, but 2 games, no turnovers, which obviously was the biggest thing. You mentioned the running backs. Waymond Jordan, 16 carries, 167 yards and a touchdown. He had that fumble early, and they went right back to him, which I liked. You got a walk-on scoring a touchdown for the second week in a row, Coach, where they hadn't had a walk-on score since 1994. So to have it happen 2 weeks in a row is crazy. King Miller. But yeah, I mean, offensively, had a couple drives that stalled. That the first couple punts of the year, but had that one turnover early. But in general, obviously, you could almost do whatever you wanted. 755 yards. They only had to run 63 plays, averaging 12 yards a play, Coach. It's pretty impressive, even against the overmatched Georgia Southern squad.
Yeah, and it's glad that you had an opportunity to play a lot of players. You weren't really challenged in most situations. Almost any play worked, and you got to be. I don't know. You got to sort of. I wonder how you're going to keep everybody happy as far as in the running back situation, because Jordan, the running back number 2, he's fantastic. He's as good as running back that I've seen at USC in many years. He reminds me of the old type of tailbacks at USC. He can shift, he can run, he's strong, he can get to the second level, he can score in the goal line. He loves the game of football. I think he's a great player, and I don't think you can give him the ball enough. So, you start rotating 3, 4, 5 backs in there. Now you've been able to do that during the opening 2 games. Now they're going to want maybe the same opportunity when you play other people. And I'm not telling you they're not great backs, but there's other guys in a different level, I think. And I'd run him a lot, and I think that would help Jaden so much. But the reason his passing game is working is because they run the football. They now are worried about the running game at USC. And again, you've got to continue to run it. So these corners and these secondary guys and linebackers get sucked in there, where you're going to have the open space as far as down the field and your curl routes and your tight ends and short routes and across the middle and so on, because they're going to be so concerned with your running game. That's going to open up your passing game and your play action passes, and also the keep with Jaden. They don't run the keep that much, but every time he carries it, he's going to get 5 or 10 yards, but he's so big and strong, and they ran that little keep option with him that they spread the field. So they've shown a lot of offense and a lot of things defensive coaches have to defense, because they run one of this and one of that or whatever. But I really think that when they polish up their running game, and they decide which are their best plays and what they're going to say, hey, we got to have yards on this play, and this is what we're going with. And this is the unit we're going with. And then off of that, have the series of the pass, play action pass, and the receivers who can run with the football after they catch it, and make spectacular catches, I'm telling you, you could be real dangerous offensively.
Yeah, Coach. I felt like they substituted a little bit more and just played around. Maybe just I don't want to say experimenting, but maybe a little bit of that. And it seemed to happen on the defensive side of the ball as well. I was talking to Shotgun, who was charting all the plays, and in the first game, you didn't see a lot of the backups coming in until second half, and then they were starting to do that in the first quarter. So it seemed like they were rotating some guys around, and it wasn't the cleanest game defensively. I thought Georgia Southern did a good job running the ball on first down. I looked up their average was 4.9 yards a carry on first down. So, the USC did get some negative plays. I think 8 tackles for loss total with 4 sacks, but there was some good success for Georgia Southern's offense. Now, they got 3 touchdowns, scored 20 points. When you give up 59, and they ran a lot of plays. They had a couple sustained drives, but 78 total plays. USC was scoring quickly. So I think there's a combination there. But, some fans were pretty upset at the defensive performance. But I think knowing what USC knew going into Big Ten play, it seemed like they were trying to play a lot of guys. They don't like the penalties for sure, clean up some things. But it seemed more almost like a learning experience than like we're going to go out and try to get a shutout against these guys.
I agree with you. I would think that looking at the team so far this season, the offensive side of the football is farther advanced. I think they have great athletes playing on the offensive side of the football. The question mark now is let's see what happens with the offensive line when they go against some tougher players. Physically, the teams they've gone against really are not the physical type of players that they're going to face later on in the season. I'm concerned, too, at the East. They ran the football, really. And I think it's going to be real important that the linebackers get more involved in the game. I'm still not satisfied with the play of the linebackers as far as making secure, great tackles in the game. I don't think they're playing on the other side of the ball that much. I think Fountain's going to be a great player. Shelby, I think he's going to be a great player. You got to put pressure on these guys. And if you can't get the pressure from your up front guys, then you got to get some help with some blitzes and outside corner stunts and also up the middle stuff to make them really not know what you're going to do and become predictable. You can't become predictable, and you can't play something that you're not really that good at. You got to make it a combination to keep them guessing, to keep them off balance. So they play soft. They made some mistakes in the secondary. They do come up there and play some man and so on. But yeah, they can't break down. They're not going to be able to break down in big game situations. But the offense, I think, if they put it together the way I look at it, will carry the defense this year. Last year, the defense, everybody was looking for improvement for the defense. They did improve, but I'm not quite sure if they improved to the limit or improvement that everyone expected, at least at this point. That's the way I can say it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach. And I think if you still have the quick strike offense, I mean, Mekhi Lemon had a 62-yard touchdown bomb and then a 74-yarder. They had the big one, like 61 yards to Zacharias Williams. They score a couple plays later. When you're scoring that quickly, too, it does put the defense back out there in different situations. But you'd like to see an improved defense that goes along with this explosive offense. We'll see how that does going into Big Ten play, of course, like Purdue coming up, which we'll talk about in a second. But any other thoughts from this game? But I do want to get your thoughts on Purdue because I know you know Barry Odom and you've known him at UNLV. But any other thoughts on the Georgia Southern one before we kind of move on? We'll do some Purdue talk and then we'll get to questions.
Well, I think they've been fortunate so far in injuries. I think that's always important at the beginning of the
True,
game.
Yeah.
They haven't lost any players, so I think that's a real good omen for them. I think they have a good attitude. I think there's a lot of excitement. What I liked is a lot of some of the changes that are going on in the pregame and the dress of the players. I've talked about that. and the way they've improved as far as their field dress, the way they're acting on the field. Yeah, you got to let the kids have a little fun and celebrate when they do something good. But like Nick Saban used to say, you're not going to play unless after the play you hand the ball to the official. There's always such a thing as touch of class. Don't be such a superstar that you're too big above handing the ball to the official, no matter what type of play it is. And these are the type of things I look at. It's as far as are you really a class person, or are you a pretender? And I think we need to have some real class people, because people then really cheer for you nationally. They want you to win. They're not when the normal football fan watches a team play, the big celebrations that go on against some opponents, they get sort of turned off with that. So I think you got to act classy. And I think with that type of act, then people say, hey, you know what? They are really a good football team, and I'm going to vote for them and cheer for them. And I think that's what they're doing a little bit better at. I really do believe that. And I hope it continues. And that's talked about in their meetings to tell that we want to be as classy off the field as on the field and everything we do. And I think that's improving. But you know how strong I am on that, Ryan. I'm really strong on what you represent on and off the field all the time as a football team. Not an individual, but as a team.
Yeah, that looks, it seems like the guys are more dialed in. People are, they seem like they're acting more like a team on the sidelines, which I think is a positive sign. And, they're playing better, which, it certainly help. I would think it would help at that point. Looking ahead a little bit. Well, first, we got an announcement this morning. USC, Michigan State, September 20th in the Coliseum. People were asking about the kickoff times. It's just been announced as of Monday morning, 8 p.m. on Fox. So going to be a late one. I didn't get out of, I forget what time I got out of the press box for a 4:30 kickoff, but it was closer to like 11 or something at night. I don't know. I'm going to get home at like 2, 3 in the morning, I think, after the Michigan State game. But 8 p.m. kickoff, so it's like, ugh. But for tailgating, if you want to tailgate, you can probably tailgate all day. But I would say pretty late kickoff for Michigan State, Coach.
At an 8 p.m. kickoff, you might not be able to get in the stadium from tailgating all day, Ryan. So,
oh, yeah.
You might not be able to make it up the stairs to your seats or whatever. But I just don't get it. A West Coast game being on at 8 o'clock at night, Michigan State and USC. I just don't get it. What are the choices that they took games? I don't know what other games are that weekend.
Yeah.
But obviously there were other choices that they took over the USC Michigan State game, the people that had the first choices. For an 8 o'clock kickoff, it's not convenient for the fans, the ticket season holders, for some of the older people, and the television audience on the West Coast or the East Coast. I mean, really? I mean, that's a late game. And like you say, you guys getting out of the press box, how do the newspapers hit their deadline? Or how do, it's the only deadline there. You're the only guys the next day. And my radio show I do Sunday morning on KLAA at 10 a.m. is the only type of recap that the people and the fans want to know what happened.
Yeah, we get it up on the internet for sure. Like newspapers, you have a hard time doing that. And the one interesting aspect is that, East Lansing is Eastern time zone. So body clock for if you're Michigan State, you're kicking off at 11 p.m. Sometimes you see West Coast teams travel east and play at the big noon game, and that's a 9 a.m. kickoff for your body. So for Michigan State, they might be trying to go to bed later for a while that week leading up to it, because they'll be kicking off at 11 p.m. local time for them.
Well, good luck.
Yeah.
I tell you, that's a big adjustment for kids. I'm telling you, travel a lot and people travel a lot, and the adjustments you have to do. So you start on Monday as a football coach practicing late. You start preparing that. They change the habits of your players, your eating habits, everything you do. You don't wait till you get there and try to do this. You try to set it all in advance so that you don't have a hangover. Because if you don't, you're going to have a hangover. Your kids' body's going to sleep. Your body's going to sleep when it's kickoff because you've watched TV all day. I mean, you watch games, you're worn out from watching and talking football. And then you have to play a game. I used to really try to be very careful of not burning my kids out on late games, but you burn them out. Yeah. They've seen some football, they forget they have a game. So you got to be very careful about that stuff.
I wonder if they would just even fly in Saturday morning since it's such a late game. You're like, just fly that day and play. I don't know. Probably not. That's probably not going to work well. But there's some body clock expert might have that as a recommendation. I'm not sure. But no worries about the Purdue game. I think it's a 3:30 local kickoff in West Lafayette. And, so Barry Odom comes in. He did a really nice job at UNLV, turned the program around fairly quickly, brought in a lot of players at Purdue. Josh Hansen is there, coming in as the offensive coordinator. He was at USC last year, offensive coordinator, but not, in name only, and then the offensive line coach. And as you mentioned, Barry Odom did coach Jade Mayava his freshman year at UNLV. They've looked better the first two games. They've already doubled their win total from last year. I mean, they were really, really bad last year. I think this is a Purdue team that's certainly significantly improved what you saw from Barry Odom. I think there's still a ways to go, and USC is going to out-talent them by a long shot. But I think he has them go in the right direction. Don't think it should be a big challenge for USC, but losing to Maryland last year, anything and everything can be on the table. What are the thoughts you have on Barry Odom and this Purdue Boilermaker team that seems to be turning things around?
Well, first of all, if I was Lincoln Riley, I would tell my team, I think we learned all the lessons we needed to learn last year on playing away games, okay? And taking people for granted. Now, yes, we are 2-0, but that didn't help us one bit as far as against Purdue. We beat these two teams. We lose to Purdue. What difference is it? You're in one. You got a loss in the loss column, so you might as well lose to one of those other teams. Plus, it's a conference game. How can you not be ready to play? And I think they learned that last year, that you can't take anybody for granted. You've got to be ready to play. At least I know I'd be talking about that the entire week. As far as you only get one shot at these guys. You got 1 hour of our 12 hours that we worked all season on. Let's don't screw up anything, guys. I mean, let's go back there, take care of business, and get the hell out of there. Because who wants to be there anyway? Get the hell home and get ready for the next game. Let's take our USC Trojan football program into there and make the nation now a believer. Right now, they're still not a believer in our program as far as the rankings are concerned and so on. So we need to go in and play a team that's undefeated also. And the coach is a great coach, and they'll be prepared. It won't be an easy challenge, but you don't think it's a big game for them too? It's a huge game for them. In fact, they'll be sold out and it'll be crazy back there, but there's nothing else happening. So I think it's going to be a big challenge. You got to go in there. You got to remember why you're going there, what the purposes are. There's no fooling around. Don't take anybody extra who's going to be a distraction on your plane or anything else. Take the guys that are going to play and take the guys who contribute or have an assignment. Don't take anybody who's an observer, because all they do is talk and they get their mind away from what's going on in the game. Get it done, get on the plane, and get the hell out of there and get home and celebrate all the way home. Think about what you accomplished, and when you land, start thinking about your next game. But it's going to be a physical game. I think they're going to hit you. It means a lot to him. Barry Odom's one hell of a football coach, believe me. So he'll have his team ready to play. The defensive coordinator he took with him from UNLV, a young, good coach, and he'll know exactly about Jaden at the same time. So I think it's going to be a great game. I'm excited about the game. I want to see him play somebody who will hit you back. Not that other teams don't try to hit you back, but they're going to have some players who played in big games, and it's a big game for them, and it's a big game for USC because it's a conference game. Every game means so much. Every play means so much. So don't take anyone who's not involved in the game. Take people who are there that have a specific responsibility and do it well. Get in there, play your game, represent everybody that stays at home and get home.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach. It should be a really interesting one. Can't overlook anybody. Need to get a win outside of the Western time zone. Go to West Lafayette. It's a perfect situation. You get your two sort of tomato can starts to the season. You get to exercise some Clay Helton demons. Win a road game in the Big Ten. Come back and play, another, Big Ten team at home that's certainly beatable in Michigan State, and then you get that big one on the road at Illinois. So it's setting up well, and we'll see how this one plays out. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back. We got some questions to get to, Coach. So back in a minute, everyone. All righty, we're back here on the Peristyle Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Abraham, and we've got the coach, Harvey Hyde, joining us. You get to see your setup here if you're watching us on YouTube. What is that, a photo of one of your UNLV teams to your left? It looks like.
My left here is can I turn the screen?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, do you see it? I don't know.
Here, I'll put it up a little more. Yeah, got it. Perfect.
That's my 1984 championship team at UNLV. Went 11-2. Randall Cunningham's team. Had a great team there. That team has won more games than any team has ever won at UNLV. I keep in touch with these guys all the time. Last year they put the team in the Hall of Fame, UNLV Hall of Fame a couple of years ago. They're a great bunch of kids. We stay in touch with them. There's some of my coaches that are there, have been in the NFL, been everywhere, head coaches. They went on, great kids. And like I said, I'm only as good as what surrounds me, Ryan. And those coaches were the best. A lot of them been head coaches, NFL special teams coach of the year, and Scott O'Brien with the New England Patriots. Just a great bunch of people. And I appreciate them so much, as everyone appreciates their family, because I call them my family. And I've got a lot of team pictures and a lot of people that are part of my family, and I try to keep track of them all the time.
Great stuff, Coach. Appreciate it. All right. Love it. We'll get a little insight on what's going on there. Look at you moving the camera and everything. You're a little pro at this. I love it. Now, to be full disclosure, his wife has to come on first, and she sets everything up. So
tell them all the secrets, for God's sake. You can't do coaching without somebody around you that helps you out. And my wife helps me out with this technical stuff.
Yeah, no, she's great. It's good to see her whenever we get to set these up. Okay, so one of the notes I wanted to let you guys know, like I said, September 20th, Michigan State, Coliseum kickoff at 8 p.m. So just so you guys know, it will air on Fox. We've got a lot of questions about that. I had people messaging me after we tweeted it out this morning, and they're like, is that true? I'm like, yes, we put it out there. It was just announced. So if you were Googling it, you might not see it yet, but it was announced Monday morning. So go check that out. We have a email. It's, hey, Coach, I'm Jim from the D.C. area. After these first two road games, what are your two biggest concerns with this team facing Purdue on the road? Thanks for your great seasoned insight each week. Thanks, Jim.
Well, I think, you got to travel as a team, and you can't have any distractions, okay? You got to keep everything as normal as you can that you've done at home. You've got to adjust your eating habits. You've got to adjust the hotel. You're going to be in a different hotel that you've been in the last couple of weeks. The bus transportation, you got to make sure everything, the itinerary is exactly perfect, because we played on the road before where I've had the buses don't show up, or something doesn't happen that turns off the itinerary, and then the messes of, or you go to a pregame meal and it's not done or ready for you, and it just causes commotion. So the people that go with you, the ones that are in charge of these things, have got to make sure that the rooms are ready when you arrive. I mean, I've taken a team on the road before when we get there and they say, oh, you're going to have to wait an hour or two because everybody hadn't checked out. You got to be kidding me. This stuff has got to be where the rooms are ready, the keys are there, the security is ready, the kids go in there, we stay on schedule, The meals are ready. The buses are there. Not when they're supposed to leave, but a half an hour before we're supposed to leave. So if there's some problem, we can get the buses there on time. I had one game when we played at home. We played at the Sam Boyd Stadium. I forget who we were playing, but the buses never showed up. Never showed up, Brian.
Wow,
So
that's crazy.
Outside, we were at the whole Union Plaza Hotel. That's where we stayed. The cabs are all lined up in Vegas. You know how that is. So I had the cabs come in, 4 guys in a cab, the whole team, the whole coaching staff. We took every cab that was out there and went in a convoy to the Sam Boyd Stadium with a police escort, because you always have a police escort. And I have them always blow the siren because, you know, it gets them a little bit more excited, the kids and me too.
Yeah.
We went to the Sam Boyd Stadium. When we got there, I started to figure, how are we going to pay these guys? They're all individual guys. So that wasn't my problem, but it always is my problem as the head football coach. So we had to take all their names, everything, promise them we were going to pay them. And then the next, I guess, week somehow, we made sure they all got paid.
Wow.
And gave them a tip. But those things happen. And after our bowl game that we won in Fresno, here we are at the end of the game. We're all excited. We had a big game, big win, and the charter plane didn't show up. No charter. These things can happen. They forgot to send a charter. So again, I'm sending a guy to make sure we get the flight. All these things happen. That's why you can't overlook anything. You can't overlook anything, every detail. And someone's got to be in charge of all of these details so that it doesn't happen to you. And I've learned the hard way, assuming that someone's taking care of something where it hasn't been taken care of. So I've learned the hard way that, hey, I have a checklist off that I make sure before every home game and every away game, I meet with every single person to make sure that they don't forget the balls, that they don't forget the shoes. At a Utah game we went to, we played Utah in Salt Lake City. So we get to Salt Lake City, and they put all the equipment in the locker room the night before to set it up, okay? They set up all the equipment. So when we go in there for the game, at 1 o'clock kickoff, everything's there. The kids can get dressed and no problem. So in the morning, I get a call from our equipment guy who's all there early. He says, Coach, somebody broke in the locker room last night and stole all the shoes. I said, what? Stole all the shoes of the players. They probably had some team in town that nobody had enough money to buy them equipment, so they thought they'd just take ours. So we worked with Utah. They gave us what they could have, but it's not the same shoe our kids used to. And we went down to whatever sporting goods stores there was and bought all the shoes we could buy. But this is a distraction, and kids are trying on their shoes. No, this doesn't fit. No, I don't like these cleats. All a distraction before your football game.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that you leave somebody in the locker room. You got to make sure the security at your locker room, that when you get to the stadium, someone's going to open the locker room door. When we played at Fresno State, I know these people don't want to hear this crap, but you're letting me talk, okay?
I got it, Coach.
When we played at Fresno State, the locker room at Fresno State is way back from the stadium. It's sort of a penalty. When I used to walk up the tunnel to there, you can't believe the names they called me. You can't believe the names. I couldn't look over and make any gesture because I didn't want them to know that I heard them, okay? I can't say on this podcast, okay? Then when you got to it after a 10-minute walk, you get in the locker room doors locked. Nobody can find the equipment guy to open the locker. It's all part of a plan. It's all part of a plan. So I have no halftime, nothing. We get the kids to get a chance to go to the restroom. We're walking back down this thing where they're screaming at me again, waiting for me to come back. So all these things, I could go on and tell you why you've got to have somebody that goes to the locker room door 30 or 40 minutes before it's halftime on the road to make sure it's unlocked and your things are in there. All these little check things that can happen that disrupt your football team.
All right. We got a voicemail from our buddy Rick. Let me play it for you.
Hey, Peristyle. It's Rick from Vista. Thanks again for all the input and the ghost notes, etc. It is very helpful. I got a question to you, though. I saw online, it looked like Jason Momoa did a shout out to the football team about the kids with Samoan heritage and the team in general. I don't know. I'm kind of curious. How often does the program, maybe the new recruiter, can't remember his name, maybe do they go out to the entertainment industry and get some of their people to help, I don't know, recruit players or do shout-outs like Jason Momoa did? Is that a common thing that maybe we don't know about? The other thing that was kind of cool is when Reggie and Matt were around, I know they were going to parties and hobnobbing with the celebrities. I would think that if you became QB1 at USC and maybe the top running back, you might get invited to those parties too, because that's something that all those celebrities look up to because they have athletic talent to speak of. So I'm just would like your thoughts on all that. And it's certainly something that I think USC, because of where we're located, should tap into as often as possible. Always like to hear what you think. Bye.
Thanks, Rick. And so Jason Momoa came out, I think it was last week. They call it like Chief of War, and he gave like a personalized pep talk to the USC football team and a lot of players of Polynesian descent there. But that was interesting. But I don't know, any thoughts on what Rick had to say, Coach?
Well, I think you take advantage of wherever you're at, okay? In some of the areas, when I recruited against teams and so on, I said, well, if you want to go there, you're going to major in ag. You want to be a farmer? Because maybe they gave him a John Deere tractor or something. Nothing against John Deere tractors or so on. And I would ask him, did they fly you in at night so you couldn't see what it really looked like around the campus? And they would say yes. And I said, did they fly you out when there was no at night too? So you couldn't see there was nothing else there but cliffs going nowhere? And they said, yes. Well, I said, why would you go there when you could come here and have maybe a better experience of meeting people and having contacts? But all of us know that it's networking that gets it done, okay? And when you don't think it's networking as far as with recruiting or business or applications or anything, you're filling out the wrong paper, okay? A lot of situations are fill out the application after I hired you, okay, or interviewed you, because basically that's a lot what's going on. But in Los Angeles, the potential in Las Vegas of celebrities, any type of recruiting advantage you have, whether it's the movie industry, the business industry, the real estate industry, you have it. And you can supply that to every student athlete that's coming in. In the old days, if you remember the NCAA, the players used to work at the studios and they would get big money being extras and so on in movies and sets and make big money. Well, the other schools in the country disallowed that because they felt they had an advantage. I don't know, Ryan, if you can remember that, but they cut that out. Just like in Las Vegas, when I recruited, the schools complained about me because I picked our kids up in limos, all the hotels limos, okay, with maybe a showgirl in the front seat or whatever. I'm not saying I did that, but it happened as far as the excitement, okay? Well, the other school didn't like that because at some of the schools, they don't have that type of activity to be able to show off their city and the academics and everything. Well, at USC, you've got actors, you've got celebrities, you've got people that are very successful in many, many fields, presidents of airlines, as you know, as the United Airlines, the field. So you take advantage of all of the things that a school can give you in recruiting, introductions, dinners at their homes, have them come and talk to the team, all the type of things that you can do to let people know that your school, your community, where you are, has more advantage for you to be successful both on and off the field, and it's who you meet that makes it happen. Now, at some schools, and I'm not saying what schools they are, because I don't want to pinpoint it, when you are really good, as USC's been and other schools have been, when you walk to a club to go in a club, as kids do, and if you say they're not doing this, well, then you're naive, okay? They go to a club, they don't stand in line. They want them in the club because they're celebrities.
Yeah.
They get front row seats. They walk around. They meet people that are in there. They're treated right. They see this. When you take a campus visit, you sort of show hey, this is what they think of us around here. So all of these type of things work in your favor. That's why I say, when you hear me talk about USC, we're USC. We can play anybody. You bring your lunch. We'll compare you with any environment that you're in Columbus or Penn State, or Georgia, Alabama. I mean, nice, great traditional football programs, but can they compete with what we have in everything in Southern California? So that's why I think the USC Trojan football job is such a great job, because of what surrounds it in every area. And that's what you utilize.
Yeah. No, and I think it was a little different the Matt and Reggie days, because there wasn't an NFL team and all that. And, you know, I've talked to some of those guys, and they would go, like you mentioned, any club, they were all, like, they were definitely involved in that stuff. And I think now there's opportunities. There's celebrities that actually their kids are going to school, or influencers that are at USC. It depends on the personality of the player, you know, but there's certainly a lot of opportunities that you get being in LA, close to Hollywood, and than you would if you were in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's going to be different. But you could be the backup center and be a celebrity in Lincoln, Nebraska, and, you know, QB1, like Jane Mayava can walk around LA and most people don't know who he is. So there's some differences there too.
Let me tell you, Pete Carroll used to drive home from a game, and he wouldn't drive around Southwest LA. There's times he drove right through it. And he would go right into maybe a liquor store or 7-Eleven or something. And when he got out of the car, it was almost like, oh my God, look who's here. Now, you don't think that helps you in the community? Well, guess who was here last night? Stopped off and picked up a cold drink. Yeah. And he talks with people or signs autographs. I mean, that's the type of thing that makes a difference in an entire community. But those kids go on, or parents go on, or people who are there and tell everybody about he was here, actually here. Those are the things that you have to do all the time as a head football coach. Think of new ways of promoting your program. Like, if you remember, they used to recruit in a helicopter. I don't know if you remember that, Ryan, when they would fly high school games, and it was Pete Carroll or whoever it was visiting a football game, and everybody would look in the sky and that's USC, that's the recruiting, that's USC. That's what gets it done. He'd go to 10 high school games in one night. That's the things that you do that other people don't do.
Yeah. We got one last email. Oh, this is actually a text message from our buddy, Sir Eric of Troy. He texted in, said, "Hey, Ryan and Coach Hyde, 2 observations I'd like your opinion on. First, the defense giving up 20 points at Georgia Southern, doesn't that equal about 30, 35 points at Notre Dame, or maybe 40 at Oregon, especially with the personal foul penalties? Or were 1 or 2 of those touchdowns scored on the second string? Secondly, did Jaden momentarily revert to his bad habit of throwing a desperation pass or two that could have been or should have been intercepted? Would love to hear your thoughts, Sir Eric of Troy."
Eric of Troy, yes. I'm going to tell you, because you got to play at a different level when you play those guys. And if you don't play at that level, then it becomes a scoring contest if your offense can't keep up with them. And that means it puts pressure on the offense that they got to score every time they get the football. And you've seen that happen before at USC. They've got to raise their level, and this is what I was talking about the last 2 weeks where some of you got mad at me, that what do we get out of this? Did we get tougher? Did we become more physical? Did it help us being able to do whatever we wanted whenever we wanted to do it? That's not going to be the fact coming down the road here. they're going to strike a blow back at you. They're going to hit you just as hard or harder. Maybe it comes down to a field goal game or one play or a fourth down play. Well, you didn't have to make some of those decisions and make that call during the first two games. Yes, I'm very concerned that the level of maybe the defensive side of the football wasn't one to stop at Notre Dame. I think that the schedule sort of favors them this year and some of the teams so far as their performances. But Oregon, you know how Oregon is and they're feeling. They'll beat you as bad as they can, just like they did Oklahoma State this week. So you got to be ready to play against these type of players that have great athletes also. Not as many, maybe they have more. But you got to be ready to not make mistakes, not make foolish penalties. Make sure you tackle well and get your best players on the field to perform. And I'll tell you what, they're going to have some challenges against Notre Dame and Oregon. Not that other teams aren't good also.
All right, Coach. Good stuff there. And so, Eric, for the defense, I mean, that long drive that they gave up in the third quarter, mostly backups were in for that one. Like I said, they were rotating in guys that they wouldn't do in a normal game. I think it's really hard to translate. Well, if you did this against Georgia Southern, this is what you're going to do against Oregon. Like, it's going to be different games. Every team is different every week. There are certainly some concerns there, but I don't think you could just say, well, this is how it is, and this is so now if you play this team, it's going to be this. Like, that just doesn't work that way. And for Maava, there was one, I thought he had one bad throw that could have been picked off. But if you notice, I think it was the second quarter, on third down, he was rolling out and could have put the ball in harm's way and just threw it out of the back of the end zone, threw it away. They kicked a field goal, which I think is progress from what we saw last year. So I don't think he had any turnover-worthy plays in the first weekend game. And then on Saturday, I think there was one that could have been picked off. But that's a lot better than what we've seen before, where there was multiple turnover-worthy plays and then, a couple turnovers too. We'll see with better competition. He was down early in this one with the early fumble by Waymond Jordan. There were some third downs that he, was forced to convert and things like that. So I think he faced a little more adversity against Georgia Southern than he did against Missouri State. And of course, you're going to get more adversity as you get in the Big Ten play. But overall, I thought there was maybe one play that was bad compared to a whole bunch of them from last year whenever he started games.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
He can't force the ball. We talked about that last week. He's got to be able to, throw the ball out of bounds, and he can't make every play. You can't make every play, and you got to understand that it'll hurt you more to make a bad play and be able to still have the football and continue with the drive. And he made some throws that where I said, "Oh my gosh!" They went through two or three people too, and they were great throws. So he'll learn as he goes along. He reminds you of a very quiet kid.
He is quiet, yeah.
He doesn't really give you the feeling that he's a real leader on the field. But I see him get so excited after a touchdown. And that shows me something. He's still a kid, okay? And it's inside of him. And when he runs down the field and he's jumping and headbutting people and so on, where he's showing his emotion, okay? And I think his team understands that too. And when you get to understand the kid, which we don't get to be around him to know this, but he's quiet, soft-spoken in interviews that I've seen. I know he has a lot of pressure on him, but I think if he can grow with the team as the season goes along, I think he'll get better every week.
Yeah.
If they do the right things with him.
We'll see. Good start for him so far. 2-0. Like I said, USC outscoring opponents by 99 points for the first couple of games. But it'll be a tough one this weekend in Purdue. USC is going to be about a 3-touchdown favorite. We'll see how that ends up turning out. But, Coach, great stuff. Make sure you follow him on all the socials at Coach Harvey Hyde, or go to his website, harveyhyde.com, for all of his content. Thanks again, Coach, for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being with you, Ryan, every week. And don't be so nice to me out there. Some of you people are so nice to me. Coach, what do you think? What do you think? If you feel like calling me, you know what? Hey, I've been called worse. I've told you what I Fresno and other campuses we've been on. So everybody doesn't have to agree with Ryan and I. We're just telling you exactly our conversation of what we see and what we think will happen.
All right, good stuff. That's the Coach Harvey Hyde. I'm Ryan Abraham. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time.